Go.
You're on. You're on.
They want me to nail this intro, and so I'm purposefully messing it up. Hey, welcome to Just Janky. We're just three boys talking about serious things, but we're not taking it so seriously. I'm John. We got Mark, and we got Aiden.
What's up?
We got on deck a couple fun things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about Love is Blind. We're going to give some honors and reports. We're going to read some of the emails. Mark's not going to do so much stuff with his hands like this, because that's
Good
my
shout
thing.
out.
Yeah. I'm not going to play with the hairs.
thing.
So, yeah.
Love it. Awesome. Something new that we just want to let you guys know. We started a Spotify, or not a Spotify account. We started a SoundCloud account. So all the audio versions of this podcast are going to be up on SoundCloud. And I think after this episode, we're going to look into getting it on Spotify as well, Apple Music, trying to get all the places that you regularly consume podcasts. So if the video format's not your thing, which I get, I'm more of an audio guy anyway. So just so you know, we're going to have that coming up in the next couple of weeks. So hope that tickles your fancy a little bit.
I literally had a friend go, "Is it actually a podcast? Why is there a video? Why is it on YouTube?" So we will officially become a podcast when we launch on sound services. What'd you say?
Your friend a boomer? That sounds like such a... That sounds
I
like
mean,
a question.
probably.
Potentially.
Probably. All right. We got a couple of things we want to get to. I think the first thing we wanted to talk about was some interesting news and headlines, tweets, things that we saw in regards to everything going on right now. For reference, we all live in LA, California. And so we've been seeing some interesting things going on around the whole lockdown situation, and we wanted to share some things. I think a perfect way to start this would be, this is my favorite thing that I saw on Twitter this week. I'm going to share this on my screen. So it was hashtag end the lockdown trending with hashtag morons. I feel like that's enough said, given the fact that I saw pictures of people in Long Beach protesting while wearing full hazmat suits and face masks. Like, they were saying things were a lie. They were saying things were fake, but they were also afraid of the thing that was fake. So I'm so confused. I'm so conflicted. What do you guys think about that? I don't know. I feel heated about it, but I want to know your opinions.
I mean, like, considering that we just told everyone that we live in LA, we have a huge drug problem. And I think these are all a bunch of skids on, like, meth. That's why you shouldn't do crack, kids, because this is the kind of ridiculous stuff that comes from doing drugs.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the worst drug that some people are doing are getting high on their own opinions.
Oh!
And I can attest, because I also, I have opinions, and it is what it is. Mark?
Wait, Aiden's opinionated?
Well, don't get me started about music.
Revealed on our podcast.
Don't get me started about music. I'll talk about it for hours. Mark, you had some things.
What did you play? Did you have one?
Yeah, I want to hear.
No, John, did you have one?
Oh, yeah.
Because mine is happy news, so I'd like to end on happy news.
Okay.
But
oh yeah, no, I'll go into mine. I was kind of kidding.
This is the roast episode, by the way, so we're swinging.
Oh yeah,
gloves are off.
Roast. Hey, welcome to Roast John. It's easy, and there's like plenty of ammunition, so like go at it.
No, we're talking about other people, John.
Oh,
we're not roasting you. You're in the...
I know what article you have. Do you want me to say it for you?
No, I thought we were going to reply to what Aiden was saying. Anyway,
no, come on, go. Share your thing.
It was the same thing, but except in Florida. So in Florida, you were able to, like the governor, this is my understanding, the president allowed states to make their own decision to lift the lockdowns.
Okay.
The governor of Florida said the individual beaches and counties can decide when they open their beaches. And so Jacksonville, Florida was like, we're going to open our beaches to everybody.
Oh,
and
Lord.
People from all around Florida came to flock this beach. And it's packed. It's super packed. And I'm like, we're going backwards. We're de-evolving.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rona who?
Like, it's
There's no better way to explain it than what you just did of like the pure
it's
frustration.
frustrating. It's like
that's exactly
okay,
yeah.
if I'm being honest, I really do want to hear a serious opinion about that's not like uninformed or a conspiracy theory that can advocate for going out and being so foolish about like not staying home and listening to doctors and hospitals. Like I could get like pretty pissed because like I know like people have died because of this thing, dude.
Yep.
Like that's
Indeed.
it's upsetting, and it's also like my initial reaction is like I really want to roast these crackheads like so hard. Like
Well,
I want to feelings because
Makes you think not very nice thoughts about people.
thank you, Aiden. Thank you. Yes, the kids' church version of what John's trying to say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes you want people to go swimming in the ocean and happen to be bit by a shark or something. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
and
know,
just
like not
go into
nothing
the ocean and
fatal,
don't
but
come
like
back.
learn your lesson. Don't go in the water. Like
Lose
you're
a
gonna live,
toe or
but
two.
yeah, just a toe or something. Little nibble,
That's it.
but it teaches
Not
them their
important,
lesson.
right? What do you think, Mark?
Yeah,
to play devil's advocate in response
Okay,
to
great.
what you're saying,
I like.
there are two things that I've seen. One thing that I've seen is if you look at comparison of the coronavirus to the seasonal flu, it's been astronomical in the like rate at which it happens. Like if you look at just the window of what is happening over time, we haven't seen much like it. But if you look at like the impact of the flu over the entire, like people are skewing, it's data that shouldn't be compared, but people are comparing data to say like the seasonal flu impacts a lot more people, which is true. It has a stronger impact,
Correct me if
and
I'm
the
wrong.
other thing that I've seen,
I think that I just saw an article that said it surpassed the 2018 to 2019 flu.
oh really? Okay.
Yeah.
Before I saw that was the argument that was being
Right.
used. And then I think that the second thing that people see is just the economic implications of it, which I think is important to see. Is we're going through a downturn of economy because of this, as a result, because people have to stay home, and so how do we face it?
Yeah.
So I think that that's the main thing that we're trying to balance, because we live in a capitalistic country, and we're having to bring our health professionals to the front and center and say like, how should we do this? And we actually kind of have to listen to their opinion,
Yeah.
and business people don't like listening to people who are telling them that we should probably not be cutting them a profit currently.
Yeah.
Just to be safe,
Yeah, definitely.
But that cuts into my, can I segue us into my
Please.
article?
Yeah,
Please
go
do.
for it.
So being in California, our Governor Newsom, who has been handling this pretty well, I might say, he
Oh
had
boy, is
on
killing
today is Monday the 20th, and last Tuesday, let's check. Yeah, last Tuesday, April 14th. We're just dating it so that people know what information we're talking about, because I'm sure that this week something else will change. But last week he released his set of criteria. He had 6 criteria for what it would take to start returning society to somewhat normal. We would still be careful because it's still very much a threat, but he thinks that we're at a point where we could start to carry some of the surge, because naturally, as you open a state during a pandemic, there's going to be some kind of increase in the rate at which people are catching the coronavirus, but he thinks that our hospitals can handle it, and he sees the economic implications of what's happening. So I think that that's the kind of balanced approach to it. Is you see the safety concerns and you think it's really important, and a lot of the things that he's holding is like, you still maintain social distancing when you're out and about. He asked businesses to do the same, be careful, that kind of thing. But we wouldn't just, go rushing into the streets and go to all the restaurants and things. But I appreciate that he's kind of looking at both sides of it, wanting to keep people safe, but also recognizing that it's important for our economy that stuff is still functioning. So that's my 2 cents. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a good way to go about things. I think you need to take everything into account when you're coming up with things like this, because my perspective is going to be completely different than like take 50 other people who are experiencing this completely differently. Like I'm doing pretty well. Like I'm still working, doing a lot of working from home, able to play Animal Crossing with my wife. And so I'm really not complaining that much about it. But at the same time, I know that there's so many other people out there who are like suffering, and people who are sick, but also people who are out of jobs, and doing everything that I can or that we can to help those people out, I think is important. And so taking into account all sides, even if it's different from your own perspective, I think is important. So, just don't be stupid about it.
Yeah.
But there's definitely stupid in this country. So
I think that's the
sorry,
big
John.
pandemic.
I say it not to put you on blast by any means. I just was playing the other side of it.
No. I thought you were saying that I was stupid for a second.
So,
I was like,
no.
yo, I was about to be like,
yeah,
yo,
we
you
were
got a
both
big
about to
case
throw
of the
down on you.
stupid, bro. Like STOOPID.
God, have more faith in me.
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
Love you,
boy.
man. Love you, boys.
Yeah,
Love
no,
you, boys.
I loved seeing that article. It's like finally good news. Like like that first initial, like, okay, we're not talking about like people dying and like it's just getting worse. Like now it's like, okay, we're not necessarily like be free and like do whatever you want, but like we're at least having the conversation of like, okay, what's it look like to like go back to normal life, whatever that's
Mhm.
gonna look like. I don't know if life's gonna be the same after this, but yeah. Anyways, cool.
Yeah, for
Good
sure.
article, Mark.
Good one.
I mean, you said that to me, so you were the one that said to me, you were like, some good news. Woohoo.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah.
Yeah. So kudos to you, dude. Aiden, we're gonna transition us. Sorry, let me do that better. We ask our audience members to respond to our episodes and send us a bit of emails. So we're gonna take a look at the emails. While I do that, Aiden, was there anything that we got fact check about last week that you might want to talk about?
I think we got a couple of things. One thing is so many people have a different perspective than you, Mark, about how cool you were in junior high.
I know.
A lot of people
completely disagree with
Really?
them.
Yeah, I mean,
They
Gabrielle.
thought that he was a shirt tucker?
Huh?
They all thought he was a shirt tucker?
No.
Oh, they think that I was cool, dude.
Yeah,
I'm
they think that
confused.
they were cooler. And so like to me, my perspective was, or my thought was, it was like my wife, Gabrielle, she's younger than you. So she would have been in a grade below you. And naturally,
Yeah, same grade as John.
kids tend to look up toward, or not kids, but like the younger kids tend to look up to older kids, right? So people who are younger than you are like, Mark's actually pretty cool.
By year.
I don't know. Even though I'm older than you, I still can look up to you and be like, hey, he's pretty cool. So I thought that was one of the things that we got fact check on. That was great. I was like, yeah, my perspective was a little bit more right. No, just kidding. Who knows?
Cool. All right. I have emails. Any other thoughts, John? Did you want to add anything?
Nah, like you were older, but I just thought you were a dweeb, but you weren't. That's all I'm trying to. That's all I was trying to say.
I was a dweeb. This is the point. I was a dweeb.
I mean, that's the beauty of Mark. He is just. I mean, still kind of
arguably am
dweeb,
still a dweeb.
love it.
Am
Yeah,
still
exactly.
a dweeb.
And I love that about you. Like, never change, please.
I'm the least funny person on this podcast, allegedly.
That's not true. That's true. I don't.
All right. Ready to read some emails? So
Yeah.
Aiden's wife wrote in. Woohoo. Kudos to her. She says, I'm a little offended I wasn't counted as one of your 5 listeners from episodes 1. True.
I mean,
and
to
then
be
she
honest,
shares,
I just didn't think she would be interested. She lives with me. I didn't think she would be interested in listening to me talk for however long with.
I was also not expecting Taylor to be as into it for it, but I assume it was because of YouTube, not because she misses you guys, not because she's like, oh, I want to hear more from Mark. All right.
Dude, I like we all have underestimated the amount of like people that want to like not the amount of people, but there are people that are like actually genuinely interested in this, and all of us didn't.
So
we're
surprising.
Like, dude, wouldn't that be cool if we get like a total of 10 views in like a week? That was our expectation.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
hit,
we were literally like, we're just gonna turn on the Zoom record button and just chat. So
Yep.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
what we're
really
doing.
So good.
All right.
going.
Gabrielle also says, I loved Club Penguin growing up. I played for hours. I also played games on the Webkins website. I never had a Webkin stuffed animal, so I just make up random codes and hope they'd get me in. A hacker from day one. I love it. She says, I guess Aiden and I were made for each other in that way. Cute. She says, love the podcast. Keep up the good work.
Wait, so I'm curious. I wonder how many of the fake codes worked.
I know. It's so interesting.
We got to hear
ask
back.
her. I'll ask her.
I'm curious now.
John's sister Lindsay wrote in,
Come on.
she says, short and sweet, she goes, this is the best thing ever. I'm laughing out loud. Wow, love all of you. We love you, Lindsay. Thank you for listening.
Mm-hmm.
And then she says, in all caps, John, quit cussing, goodness, child. And then she says, Marginated, y'all are homies. But actually, y'all are hilarious. Just keep talking. So John gets put on blast for cussing. Good thing we didn't hit record early, right, John?
Oh, I love my what are you talking about?
No,
We've been recording this whole time.
John doesn't curse. We hit record right as he popped into the chat.
Yeah.
All right.
Definitely.
And then
we didn't re-record anything or anything.
No. McKenna says, first time listener / oh wait, let me explain that better. McKenna is Taylor's twin sister. They have been watching this Monday nights after work and school, and apparently it brings them a lot of joy. So this time McKenna wrote in to tell us about her thoughts. She says, also John, it says, John, oh my God. Aiden, it says 1 more minute. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I just noticed that too. I think they're going to shut us down. It's okay. We'll bring it back.
McKenna says, I have always been so inspired by your friendship and the way you're so open with each other and support one another through all of life's up and downs. I think a big issue for young men in our patriarchal society is finding that space to be emotionally vulnerable in any context, but especially with male peers. I would love to hear your thoughts on how you felt expressing your emotions as young men in our society and any advice you'd have to any young men or even women as to how we can foster a space of vulnerability in our friendships. Again, thanks so much for the laughs, and the hot takes. Have a great week. I look forward to the next episode. And so, McKenna, thank you so much. My voice, geez. Thank you so much for writing in. Boys, do you have any thoughts about that? Can
someone translate that last part into English for me? Because McKenna's
you mean American, dumbed down English?
Yeah. McKenna, I know, is like she was studying like journalism and stuff, so she likes using big words, and she's very smart. So can someone dumb it down for me? Because like I really didn't understand what she was asking.
John, she wants to know why you feel safe talking to me about your feelings.
That was actually a really good summary.
Well, we've seen each other's wieners, so like after that, like guys are cool with like we'll share anything.
For the record, John has not seen my wiener. I just
want
to set that.
Definitely
Why do you got? Okay,
just want to set that.
The day will come. The day will come.
Yeah, I somehow don't think that that's the case, but anyway. Okay, I'll seriously answer the question.
Yeah,
I think the reason that I feel safe is literally just because trust has been built over time. Right? Like, I mean, that's the foundation of trust is consistency over time. And so both of these guys and other guys in my life have been consistently good friends and consistently like supportive of me, even when I didn't ask for it, without me even asking. And so for me, that prompts a sense of vulnerability because it's like, I'm not worried that what I say or what I'm going through is going to change their perspective of me. Now it's hard for me to also tap into the side of not knowing what that's like, because that's kind of how it's been for most of my relationships. Is it always starts with trust and vulnerability. Now there's obviously been woundings and hurts after that. So I don't really know the best way to, maybe somebody else has a better perspective, but I get locked up on that part sometimes where it's like, I've always been trusting sometimes. So I don't have a perspective of what it's like to not be that way.
John, do you have any thoughts? Besides wiener thoughts?
I am always having those.
Oh God.
As a heterosexual man. No, yeah. I'm trying to think. Because I feel like since I was a kid, I've been very naturally just like, if I feel something, you're gonna know it, and I don't really care if like, I just don't care. I like if people, if I get backlash from expressing what I'm feeling, I just kind of got numb to it. Like I've just experienced so much of that in my life, being the kid that like, I really liked this, so I expressed that. And as a kid, that's kind of like the first thing you want to express is like, I love Power Rangers. I loved Buzz Lightyear. Buzz Lightyear was the ish. And so like,
Yeah.
I dressed up as Superman for 7 years straight when I was a kid because I liked him that much. Like, I didn't care that people were going to flame me or that it was weird. Like, I've always been very expressive. And so when it comes to like Mark and Aiden and like, I'm just naturally that kind of person, but also I think what makes like Mark and Aiden so I'm having a tough time with my words.
It's okay. I was in the same
What
boat.
makes you guys so unique and special, and why I like opening up to you guys, and I feel okay with expressing my emotions, is because it's not just a sense of safety, but it's a sense of there's a space of honesty, and there's a space of we're all vulnerable. And like something that someone told me, like a mentor of mine, he said highlight the errors, highlight the issues. So like vulnerability is your strength, kind of thing. And I noticed that about Mark and Aiden. Like that's just a quality that you guys have. So I as a person am very naturally, to a fault, open and vulnerable. Like I open up to people I shouldn't open up to. But I know that I can fully open up when I receive another person's full vulnerability. Does that make sense? And
Yeah.
I sense that from you guys. Because there's some dudes that I'm very broy, like very like societally like the norm of like, yeah, dude, beer and football, even though I don't understand football, but like Call of Duty, duh. Like that's all our conversation goes to. But like there are some people that like I'll open up to, and even with those people, I'll say like, I'm kind of the emotional. I've kind of naturally been the more emotional dude in a conversation, but like it's cool when Aiden and Mark are like, they're there with me. They'll say stuff with me. They're like, yeah, I insecure about this, or I whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, Mark, what about you?
Yeah. Love that. John, a bro? Never thought of that. Just kidding. But the thing that I was going to say is that I think societally we're really moving towards a point where men are allowed to have feelings. I think there was definitely a point where it was like, I don't know when that would be, but it was like there was a push to get to a point where it was like, yeah, men can cry and that's totally fine. I think particularly like there's that Gillette commercial where there's like all the dads in a row with all of their like cooking things, and they're like saying the line, boys will be boys. It's like the wrestling thing, and then it's like, how do you break it up, that kind of thing. A lot of problems with that in general, but I think that we've gotten to a point where like in most circles it's totally fine for men to be vulnerable and emotional and all of that stuff. So I think that kind of society has come that way. But to get back at McKenna's question, I think that vulnerability inspires vulnerability no matter who you are. And so I think that like if you're trying to help somebody feel safe to share, you can share something yourself and really take that first step, and then they can match you. And that's a lot easier than being the first person to take that step, particularly if you're comfortable with it. So sometimes I'm just like, to somebody who I know struggles with sharing emotions or things like that, I can say like, hey, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling confused, I'm feeling worried, and just start there. And then they can be like, oh, it's okay to talk about that, because I think that there's like, there can still kind of sometimes be that cultural taboo for as far as we've started to come. I think there can still be that cultural taboo around talking about that stuff. So,
and like, sorry to interrupt, I love that thought that you said at the end there, that like even with those people that won't necessarily match you or meet you with like where your vulnerability, like I still love being around those types of people. Like everyone's on a different, like you can tell when that someone's just on a different part of their journey. It's not to say that that's their extent, but like that's just where they are right now in their journey. And
Completely.
like part of vulnerability is just sitting with them in that, like they're just in a different spot, you know? And so I really like that you said that. That was really cool.
Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily feel qualified, but I'll try to give advice in a sense. The thing that I would probably say is you can really start small. Like you don't have to get deep with 10 people all at the same time and the same level of deepness, right? You can start with one person and get deep with them, and then you can make it like the whole can get bigger and bigger because you can add more people in, and you can kind of get a core group going. And then, you know, it's really more about there is some trial and error, because I've had friends in the past and it's like I was deep with them and it didn't work out because for some other reasons, like you can't always control every variable, and you can't beat yourself up if those things aren't true. But I love what the guys were saying about you can take the first step of being vulnerable, and if people want to meet you there, then great, chase after that. And if they don't, that's okay, and you can just kind of move on and be friends with them on a basic level or something like that. I don't know, those are my thoughts.
And like I'm thinking about McKenna's question, and I feel like maybe we're talking about this for too long. We can move on soon, but I knowing all of our families a little bit, like I've met all your like your guys' parents, and like I know my parents were very like nurturing about like what I was feeling had valid merit in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if it was later on, I rethought it and I was like, okay, I overreacted, or like that was stupid. But like they were really okay, especially when it came to sadness and grief and like frustration. Not like I wanted that toy necessarily, like not that kind of like, you know what I'm saying? That's a parental correction moment. But yeah, I know knowing Mark's parents and knowing Aiden's parents, like yeah, I feel like we're really lucky for our family situation.
Totally.
I know I like there's a chance that there's a majority that we don't know about, because we're like, I know I'm privileged. Like I'm a white dude living in the suburbs, like in Los Angeles, and so like I have like the awesome opportunity of having a mom and dad that like were really nurturing and open and in that kind of position. Like I yeah, anyway.
Yeah,
No,
that's good perspective.
I love that you talked about our parents, John, because I think that really is where it starts, is how you parent kids and how you help them to feel safe enough to be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to say, sorry, Aiden,
Go.
I do want to say, like, own a ton of that privilege for sure. It can be super difficult to be vulnerable when you're like part of the minority identity and have identities that fall in the wow, dude, I really cannot say that word, minority group. Because it can feel so much more difficult to share. So I definitely want to own that privilege to be in that group. And Aiden, did you have one more thing to say about this, or I'll segue us?
Take us away.
We're gonna start moving into the heat of Love Is Blind, but before I want to,
we're in the thick of it now.
Before I say that, I want to definitely own something that Taylor and I were talking about during this week, which is that I, at least, am very romantically privileged. Like Taylor and I've only ever had one girlfriend. It ended up working. We're gonna get married. My parents are married, and in terms of all of that, like I'm in the top echelon of privilege. So as I'm having these conversations, like I really am very blessed, very lucky. And I say that not to like rub it in people's faces, but to recognize that like there are so many people who don't experience the story the way I do. So I just wanted to like own that for sure. Even among you dudes, like that was totally my story. And so just want to own that, like, of us, even I am privileged. And so, you know, I want to own that as I talk and try to be more cognizant of that. That said, my serious note, we move into Love Is Blind. Thank you for anybody who tuned in last episode. We're now talking about episodes 2 to 6. So spoiler alert, if you have not seen those, pause now, go watch. it's honestly a little painful to try to watch them all at once.
Yeah, don't watch them all. You
I
need
don't
breaks.
recommend that.
I recommend
No,
breaks.
not back to
Lots
back.
of comforting snacks.
There's only so much Jessica you can take. So much broken duck call that you can handle.
So quickly before we launch it, that's my spoiler warning. If you want a quick way to catch up with us, there's recaps on YouTube where you can watch like all of the episodes in like 20 minutes so that you understand what we're talking about, or you can just tune in and we'll give you some context for that. And
I only found 1 and 2 of the link that Aiden found me, and that was like a really clean like video. I find other episodes.
Oh, okay. Sorry, excuse me.
He's in the middle of
Not all
doing
of
them all, so he hasn't done them all. But one of the
we
things
will
that was
summarize
recommended
if you
to
don't
me,
want to watch the whole thing.
Mark's going to summarize something that I found so interesting. Maybe we'll have to watch this and talk about it before we wrap up the series or something like that. But I got recommended on YouTube a therapist watching through and reacting and commenting on Love Is Blind. That sounds so fascinating to me because I'm like, that would be so. As somebody who's been in therapy for a little while, it's like I want to see that perspective.
Yeah,
like I've learned so
definitely.
much about myself. I want to see what that person has to say about all this stuff.
And they're much more qualified than us.
Oh, absolutely. Wait, 100% more qualified. I'm never mind. Yeah, come on.
I'm just saying it.
Good.
Sorry, that's a commonality that all three of us have, is that we're really interested in like psychology and the way that the human brain works, and sociology and the way we interact and stuff.
Yep.
So like when someone introduces something like that, we're all like,
that's the stuff.
yeah, dude, hit me with it. Give me an ID, bro.
So on the note of psychology, John, we're going to jump into our segment quickly before we answer some of the larger questions that we have for this episode. Tell us about your honor and report, and I'll explain what that means. What that means is that you're going to tell us some person, some moment, some dialogue, maybe a character that you want to honor because they did something great or cool, or you think that was healthy, any of that sort of thing. And then somebody you would like to report for doing something the opposite of that, unhealthy, manipulative, emotionally attacking, that kind of thing. John, you want to start?
Yeah. I want to. I just don't know where to. There's so much.
Maybe start positive.
I'm trying to. I was like, I should say something positive, and I was like, I probably should have thought of something positive before the podcast.
It's so much easier to point out all the negative things of like, I didn't like this.
It's gonna be easy.
One more thing.
It's so easy.
One more thing. My final question is going to be, what's the most problematic thing Jessica has done? And we can each share. So you don't have to talk about that right now.
Okay. All right. I'm going to pop off then, though.
Yep, of course.
You made Poggers, boys.
Duck call.
Okay, positive. I kind of like Amber. I got to give props to Amber. Like, she seems genuinely all in with Bernadette. What's his name?
Barnett.
I'm so bad at names.
Okay.
Amber's the ex-tank mechanic, right?
Yep.
Yeah. She's I think my sister before watching this was like, she's like, I think, the tank girl's not very attractive. And I watched it, and I'm like, she's a smoke show. So sorry, Lindsay, you're wrong.
I can't wait to get another email about this.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be great. Thanks, little
smoke
sister.
Show.
Yeah, the Amber's kind of a smoke show, dude.
Oh my god! All right, we're not going there. Who's your report?
I'm single. I can talk about what I want to, bro. Anyway,
all right.
Smoke show. I've never heard that lingo before.
I'm going into my report because I don't really have anything else to say about good stuff.
Here comes the pop off.
Carlton. I can't. Okay. This guy. Okay, like this guy. I thought that was super manipulative of him. Like, I understand that. This is me being like more sensitive to what he was probably feeling. He's probably had a lot of hurt. He's probably like been what's the word? Like, people have probably said things to him because of his sexuality.
Yeah.
And he's probably got a lot of hurt in the past. And so I can understand that, like, there's a lot of pent up stuff in there. The way it was handled was terrible. Like you that's got to be one of the first things you come out with. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, like, because for some people that's not their preference. Like, it's not, I'm not here to judge or anything, but like, that's just not, some people don't want that, you know. um and then I thought she overreacted. Like, I get that some people don't like that, but like, I felt like she overreacted because like she was pretending like that was his identity, and I was like, it's there's more to this guy than this that. Like, I felt like that. Me personally, I feel like that's an overreaction. I know that there are some people who are gonna disagree with me, but
Here's the way that I categorized it in my head is if you were in like a psychology class or something, we all like kind of like this stuff. That conversation and that explosion kind of felt like a textbook example of what unhealthy, like emotional action is, or like I just felt like there was so much immaturity in that conversation. And I think it was because a lot of people, both of them, came into it kind of defensively. And it was like the second that they were not on the same page, it was like, oh, I'm going to defend myself. I'm going to defend myself. And that's how it just like kept exploding. And so I think that was the big takeaway for me, is like, I totally didn't walk away having a lot of good thoughts about either of them. I was just like, that was like, that exploded. Even though I think they both went into it with like a good heart at the beginning, it just turned so quickly in my mind.
and so like dramatically, like that pool scene
Yes.
was so I was so shocked, like what was coming out of it. I was like, who, you are different people. Like, yeah, it's upsetting to see that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So which part do you think was an overreaction, John?
I
Do you
thought
think that the night before, or do you mean the pool scene?
like all of it. You're talking about when they were sitting on the
Oh, sorry. There's the night pool scene and then the day pool scene.
got it.
They're in paradise. There's pools everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it was the day pool scene. Well, it's what
Okay,
whenever
because
like
I don't think that was an overreaction. So I wanted to clarify what you were talking about.
there's the one where she throws juice in his face.
Yeah, that scene. So
That
let me read back some of what he says to her.
Yeah.
Just so that like we're on the same page about that. Because I was like, I got heated in that scene. So the thing that's crazy is, like, to give some people a frame of reference, in the beginning, he starts talking like, Carlton says, I have something that nobody knows, or I have a secret, right? And like from the get-go understands that this is a contentious thing, but is intentionally holding it until after the engagement, because he says he wants to be loved for himself, right? But then tries to like, then is in, like, the way that I would do it is, if you have something you wanted to say, like, healthily in that first night, have a conversation, but instead he's being an a-hole, like he's being really attitudey, and she's like, what? And like, she has to bring up the fact that he's not being himself, and then they have a conversation about it by the night pool, and then it comes to blows, and he never gives her a moment. Like, she says, you should have told me earlier, and he's like, no, I shouldn't have. And I totally agree that he should have said something before they got engaged. Not because I think she would have judged him for it, but because she owes him that if they're going to get engaged. I don't think because he called it a secret. Not because I think that you need to open up all that. I think that you should also be loved for who you are, and that should just be a part of it.
Right.
But like, some of the stuff he talks about his strategy. He says the strategy is that I wait until after. So he totally was aware of the fact that he was waiting intentionally.
Right.
He also says, I have a method. So like, he has a way, he understands the thing. And he says, like, it didn't have issues with other girls. This is why I don't deal with bitches like you. And then he says, you're wig sliding. So like, clearly, like, he has levels. Like, he has a system to this. And I think that's where it felt inauthentic to me.
Yeah.
Sure. But I think that's where it felt inauthentic to me, was because he felt like he went in with, like, he wasn't going to respond to her willingness to do that.
Yeah, totally. And I think like it's very apparent that he was like, what he did was uncool, like for lack of a better term. I'm just saying that like that she stooped to his level. He definitely was not.
True. Okay.
I thought I'm saying that she could have been the adult in the situation because I felt like he was acting childish.
That's a good point.
And so I was disappointed to see that because you did this, I'm gonna do that, and I think that says something about her. She said stuff too that was like.
Speaking of which, I didn't read back any.
Her last line to him was worse, dude. Her last line to him was worse than his last line to her. Definitely, that was so.
Yeah.
Ways,
I mean, you know what they say: hurt people hurt people.
Yep. So I was mostly
realize.
All right, no hands.
Mark's trying so hard. It's like, I want to do something.
My arms are crossed.
Just fiddle with something like me. That's what I do. I fiddle.
Sorry, Mark. I totally interrupted you.
No. Sorry to come back at you about the overreacting thing. I just wanted to.
Oh no.
Paint the picture for people who haven't seen it.
Good.
Yeah. Aiden, honor and report.
You want to get me with some honor and reports? Okay. It's tough. I think I kind of want to honor the families. Have they? Wait, did they not do that part yet?
Not yet. Wait. No, not yet.
Oh man. So I haven't watched it as recently as the other guys. So I'm trying to pull things back from my memory of the families. I love the family part. Anyway, let's go back then. Let's go back to you guys gotta help me here.
Okay. So
they're in the pods.
Elsie left the show.
Oh, that's right.
And then they all go to their they left the pods. They're going into the apartments together.
Yep.
Everyone's getting all lovey-dovey.
Yep.
Jessica and Mark don't want to have sex together. The other ones are all
okay. Yeah.
And then they meet up in Mexico.
Yep, that's right. Okay, so I want to honor Cameron and Lauren, I think, because maybe specifically Cameron. I think actually Lauren too. So I'm going to honor Cameron and Lauren. One of the scenes that stuck out to me was when they were on the vacation and they were just lying together, and he you can tell that this dude is head over heels for this woman that he's known maybe a week, something like that. He is all in and all committed, and she seems all on board too. They are just in it. And I think what was encouraging about that was that they were willing to discuss kind of difficult things, like the fact that they're an interracial couple, and how they're not willing, or that's not going to be a deal breaker initially. Because I think to contrast what John's report was about how that conversation and the way that was all handled was instantly a deal breaker when it didn't have to be a deal breaker. It seemed like at some points both of them had perspectives where this wasn't going to be a deal breaker. For Cameron and Lauren, it was just right out the bat, this isn't going to be a deal breaker. I know that things are going to be hard. She even talks about her dad a little bit and how that might be difficult, but they're hey, if it's for you, none of those things are deal breakers, or they're willing to fight for things. And I think that's something that's important to me in a relationship, is you have to be willing to fight through hard things, fight for the other person sometimes when they're not willing to even fight for themselves. So I think that those things are important, and that's why I want to honor them. For the reports,
he's just picking. He's going down a list.
Too many good ones. There's too many good ones. Mark, do you have an honor report you want to add in there so you can give me a minute to think?
Yeah, sure, of course. Let me, I have a long list, so let me figure out which one I want to use.
Mark came prepared. He watched the episodes and binged them all.
Let's see. Okay, so I don't want to honor Amber again. What are our thoughts on that? Should I not do it again?
I mean, you can.
All right.
Go for it. No, dude,
there's better owners.
Okay, while Mark's looking for something, I'm gonna say that we're cutting here because how far? What's our time?
We're fine.
So we're editing this episode then?
Definitely, yeah. I have to because we had to restart the. Yeah, we had to restart the edit, the recording. It's gonna be 2 different clips. already, so might as well. It's gonna be easy, super easy, just like cutting out these little spots, like right now, and then we'll just like cut back in, like nothing happened. So.
All right. Yeah, we're
Did
doing
Mark
good on time. We're fine on time. We got 15
Okay,
minutes
cool.
left. We're fine.
Great, awesome. Just that was all I was curious about.
Sure.
Time in.
All right. I'm gonna actually honor Barnett, which you're
Okay.
gonna be like, what? But at the very end, he and Jessica, so it's like they've gone to Mexico, they've gone back to their apartments, and they're having a party for Barnett.
That's right.
And I honestly feel like over that week, he like kind of ages a little bit. Like you see him go to his house and he's like showing off his house and he's like aware of like the fact that he's a little bit insecure about his house and that kind of thing. And like him and Amber are having like very adult conversations, and we'll talk more about that later. But then he's sitting down at his birthday party and Jessica comes over and she's like clearly under the influence and is like
She's
clearly
being a little
hitting on him.
shisty.
Yeah, she's clearly like hitting on him, touching him, blah, blah, blah. And Barnett is like, he's clearly not giving into it. He's kind of like, I really love Amber. I'm going to make that work, blah, blah, blah. And then he like takes a little swing. And then, because Jessica's like, I just don't know. Like, I don't know if I love Mark, that kind of thing. And he's like, so then why'd you say yes? Like, why'd you choose? You saw him. You could have said no before you went on that down to Mexico, and then he like kind of swung with some truth, and I was like, okay, because nobody else on the show will say that to her. Even Mark won't. Like, even Mark is only talking in interviews about like, why are you still choosing this? Because she's so wishy-washy. But like Barnett was the one that was willing to say something, so I was like, good on you, brother. Don't know if I like him, but like it was a good moment. And the fact that she was hitting on him and he like didn't do anything, you know, like he could have reciprocated for sure.
That's true.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, good point. Like just one small point of redemption for Bernadette. Barnett?
Barnett. I can come back around and report him again though if we're down.
You do the honor
Unless
report.
Aiden
I'll
has
give my
thoughts.
quick
Yeah.
report. My quick report. I think it has to be. The. Okay, I think I'm gonna use it as the overall communication in the show between some of the couples is a little bit it's a little bit rough, and I'm gonna I think one of my favorite lines. Wait,
to be fair, it's been 10 days.
I know,
like,
it's true. I just want to make sure. Have you seen is the scene where Giannina and Damien are in their apartment and she's yelling at him from the other room?
They're not in their
yet. We haven't seen
apartment
that yet.
yelling at each other. No. But we
Man.
did see the
we did see
so
the confrontation
awkward.
at the party.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the awkward. I don't know, man.
That was a stupid. That was the.
But yeah,
I
you can
know.
say
But he's
the
awkward.
communication, because even the fact that like they're trying to like figure out, do they want to have sex? Like it's day 6 of knowing each other. They're like sleeping together. They're trying to figure out how physical they want to be. Like that feels painful. Like they're getting undressed, that kind of thing, and like clearly the couples are kind of like, what do we do? Sorry, I think it's 10 days into the experiment at that point.
Yeah, so for me, the communication was the hard part of like. I feel like a lot of the people weren't fully honest. Like not the couples that had like a really easy time. I think they were better at this, but like the kind of the conflict couples had a little bit of a hard time with communication and just being like straightforward of like, I don't know, I don't want this. Or I mean, Jessica did say she didn't want this, and like, you know what? Hey, I don't like you very much, but good on you. I think that's a good call. If you know that about yourself, that's good. Hold to your guns. Don't get swept up in the moment. Kenny and
Kelly.
what was her name? Kelly. Yeah, I thought they were great. They were like, they're super respectful the whole time.
So I'll go on my report for Bernadette, as John says. My report is earlier on in the stuff when he's like he is like when they're still in the pods and they're getting ready to like pick and that kind of thing, and he picks Amber, he keeps saying the line, "We're so alike, it's crazy." And then Jessica also says that, like, we're so alike, it's crazy. And I don't feel like that should be criteria, or that shouldn't be the reason you pick someone. I feel like you can pick someone because they resonate with you. And maybe that's what he's saying. But just like picking someone when you're like, you're so alike, it's crazy, that kind of thing. Like, I don't know. There's just not a lot of, like, you never will want to work to challenge the other person if you're so alike. Then it's like, well, why are you switching stuff up on us? You know? I just think like, I don't know. I think it's a bad reason to pick someone. I think it really works if you're like, we go really well together and we work really well together. But I think even that insinuates that like there's stuff that you are working on. I don't know. That was I don't like that phrase. And so
Yeah.
when I heard that, I was like, oh.
Yeah, the pods, Bernadette, and the Mexico Bernadette are very different people, and I would just like flamethrower flame pods Bernadette. Like,
But I would say that like
apartment
apartment Barnett is actually also like shows growth too.
Yeah, definitely,
So,
for sure.
I like it.
But
All
like
right.
pods Bernadette is obviously like he's Darth Vader, you know, like he's the bad guy.
All right, we'll move on to some questions.
Oh.
All right, so question 1 that we've been thinking about, or that I wanted to ask, was LC is one of the only people who like leaves the show, or is shown to leave the show at least. I've heard that there's actually more people there and they only send couples to Mexico, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, LC leaves the show. She has her exit interview. In her exit interview, she's expressing this like sense of, I don't know, like if it'll ever work, that kind of thing. Like clearly she is out of a little bit of hope because, you know, as it happens, if you've essentially tried dating in today's time, there's always some kind of disappointment when you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't find the person. What are our thoughts on that? And what would we say to somebody who's feeling that? Because I definitely am owning some of that romantic privilege, as I was talking about earlier. And I was definitely lonely in middle school and high school, but didn't ever have a moment of like, oh no, like, what if I don't ever find the person, you know? Or I did, but not in the context of like multiple times over and over, you know?
Sorry, I totally just yawned. I tried to hide it, but I totally did it.
Sometimes they just take over, don't they?
Yeah, I was like, Anyways, go ahead, Aiden. You were gonna say something.
I wasn't, but I can.
It was you.
I think.
Sorry.
Oh, good.
Do you want me to go?
Go, Aiden.
Yeah.
I think this is super interesting because I would say it's a pretty safe bet that everybody at some point, regardless of their situation, thinks that. Like, I've thought that, and I'm married now at 23. Like, even before that, obviously my perspective was very, very flawed about my life, but everybody has that kind of, whether it's an overreaction or not, everybody thinks that. I think the really interesting part was, so she has that experience, and it's because she doesn't get chosen. The reason that I think Jessica and Mark are so annoying to me is that Jessica has had that experience. She brings up the age difference a whole lot, but she's at a point where she probably is older than she wanted to be when she wanted to be in a relationship. And I think that that's why it's so hard for her, is like she has so many conflicts about how this guy's not her ideal, but she's almost desperate in a sense. That's what it felt like to me watching the show, is like she's really, really trying very hard for this to work out because she doesn't want to be in the same position that LC was in. And so I think it's hard because I don't know what to say to somebody who's in that position. I would say, because sometimes it's not that person's fault that they don't get chosen. Like, I don't think it was particularly LC's fault that she didn't get chosen or something like that. But I remember what a lot of people would say to me when I was in situations like that is, I know that person, I know their character, and I've seen them get through harder things. And so I would say, keep going. that's what people have said to me, and that helped. But obviously it's a crappy situation and that sucks. But I want to know from John, what do you think about that?
I think it's about okay, I've definitely felt the feeling of like I don't think the perfect person is out there. Like it's just so seeing so many options that you're like I mean, and seeing no options a lot of the time. Like that's a feeling I've definitely felt like there's something wrong with me, or there's no one out there that's right for me. Like I've had both of those feelings, but there's like so many options in your mind of like you have the option in your mind to like have like a checklist or and you like have this perfect person that this like I don't think it's about finding the perfect person. I think it's about finding the right person. And that's what I would say to someone that felt that way. I think like you're not going to find the perfect person. There is no such thing as a perfect person. You're going to find a flawed person that's right for you. Like, and that's just the truth. Like, I'm not a perfect person. If someone's looking for a perfect person, I'm going to point them a different direction. And, you know, I know that they're going on a wild goose chase because it doesn't exist. Yes, I've felt this feeling before. Not so much anymore because of like I've in therapy, I've talked about this and like with friends and like, yeah, I've just processed that like it's gonna be the right person, not a perfect person. Like not this crazy idealized whatever.
Yeah, it's a good perspective.
Yeah, and I just wanted to circle back around and say that I wasn't by any means saying like, oh, I've never experienced this in my life, blah, 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 I'm above it. I just was trying to own the fact that like I'm coming from a perspective of like where my first relationship worked out. But like I definitely have felt that before, and I think that it just like my approach is just to own it. Like it's scary because you don't know. You don't know like when you'll meet that person and that kind of thing. And I think that like you don't know if it will happen, and so I think it's just like kind of come alongside those people and be like, yeah, like it's all right. You can also find companionship elsewhere for like you can find community from other people. It doesn't have to be like this significant other that's going to be with you for the rest of your life for now, you know? So
it's important.
Any other thoughts?
Don't think so.
Cool. Question number 2. So while they're in Mexico, Gigi and Damien are on a little boat. They're cruising along in the water. And then Damien says, oh my gosh, it's just so nice. We're just away from all the drama. And then Gigi goes, oh, what drama? And he's like, oh, drama back home. She's like, that's not a good enough answer. And the reason she says that is because they just been through the pods. And so she saw like really authentic, vulnerable Damien, and now he doesn't want to go there, and she's frustrated by that, and they hash it out, but they don't, and they're just like, they're also sitting in the sun, so I imagine both of them are like super heated in general.
Literally.
And then it just like doesn't really help. And so anyway, what are your thoughts on conflict like that? And, what's your perspective on that? Because I think that kind of conflict is necessary. It's healthy, but they resolve it healthily later. Spoiler alert. They end up resolving it. But I wonder like what your thoughts are in that moment.
Yeah, I think I can relate to both perspectives, to be honest. I've been in both situations, and I'm not trying to just talk about my relationship with my wife because it happens in friendships too. So I'm not only talking about her, I'm talking about just any situation. I've been in multiple situations where I don't want to talk about my feelings or what's going on because I'm a slow processor and I'm still trying to process it. But also I've been on the other end where it's like, but wait, we were just being so like, we just had that intimacy of talking so much that like, I can't understand why you possibly would not want to talk about something. So I definitely related to both of those perspectives. And I think there's just a moment of like, okay, we should really not talk about this right now. We should we can both come to the agreement that this is not a good situation. So let's defuse, hey, how about we talk about this tonight? He's like, you know what? I just don't want to talk about the drama right now. Could we wait till tonight? Like, that was my thought of like, both parties could have made an attempt to like de-escalate and bring it back. And that just was non-existent. And so I was like, well, you know, maybe that's because they've been in a relationship for 10 days or something. I don't know.
I mean, I think we could make that excuse for all of them, but
That's
can
true.
we really? No.
but it's a TV show, so we have to talk about
Right,
it.
yeah.
They're not humans. They're just characters, right? No.
Right, yeah. No, they're just characters on a screen with no feelings and emotions.
Do you have any
Mark, what
thoughts,
do you
John?
think?
Or I could point to a moment this week where I fought with Aiden. So if we want to like paint the imperfect
Oh, bring it
picture of
on.
us.
Bring it on.
Do you have something you want to say, John, or should I launch to that story, then you can respond?
Yeah, I'll go last.
Cool. So Aiden, we were talking about it happens with friends. It also happens with best friends. So I don't know if you remember when we were playing League,
Yeah,
and I decided
remember.
this is the anthill I die on. This is the moment where
That's my
I
favorite
drive
phrase.
my flag into the ground and I burn right here, and I burned.
Yeah. Are you gonna give
I
any
was ready to-
context?
I was ready to fight you. Sure. I mean, you could talk from your perspective. I could talk from my perspective.
Yeah.
I 100% own that was the wrong timing.
I
It
think
not
Mark was,
constructive.
from my perspective, Mark was frustrated at me because I was being non-confrontational in a sense, right? Like, is that how you would put it?
I was being a control freak. I wanted you to talk more.
That's what
I
it was.
wanted
You
you
wanted
to
me to
be a
talk more.
communicative teammate.
Yeah. Yeah. I wasn't talking enough. And I admit that like I should have had more communication in some areas, but also, you know, when you're playing games, you get frustrated sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just want to like part of the process. And I was trying to take the tact of I'm not gonna be a fire starter, even if like I just wanna like I'll get in, I'll be a good teammate and stuff like that. And Mark wasn't buying it.
So I decided to make it happen right then and there. So to put it into context, happens to me, happens with the boys, happens with Taylor. So, you know, sometimes I just decide this is the day that I throw this down and fight, and it was the wrong timing. So,
We're not perfect people.
no, we are not. John, any more thoughts to add?
I thought I did, and now I don't.
It's okay. You made a cute face.
We have left. We went.
That's
satisfying enough for me. Mark, what's your next question?
So my other question was I was gonna debrief the whole Amber and Barnett having a conversation about their financials, and Amber just kind of lays it all out on the table. Do we have thoughts and we want to talk about that, or do we want to just jump to Jessica?
I thought it was good. I applaud all the mature conversations that happened on the show.
I was impressed, and that's partly why I honored Amber, was because I just was impressed that she was willing to lay it all out there and be like, yep, I got student loans. I'm not really working a job. I don't have a house, that kind of thing. And so like, I appreciate that she wasn't going to try to like, yeah, I really, you know, I'm in a good position. She was willing to call it as it is and be like, do you still want me? And Barnett still chose her. So
yeah, I thought that was cool.
So anyway, Jessica. What is the most problematic thing that she's done so far in your eyes, and why?
I love that.
Who wants to start?
I've started on the last two, so you guys go.
John, you've been wanting to swing for a while, so.
Yeah, I know. My mind is empty. You go first.
So the thing that I wanted to talk about for her, let me pull up my notes real quick. I was most frustrated when they were having one of these gathering moments where they bring all 6 couples together in Mexico and they're mingling, and like Jessica says to the camera, she's like having an off-camera interview, and she's like, if Barnett chose me, he wouldn't be who he is today. he would be sophisticated and we would have sophisticated conversations, and he wouldn't be like this sex crazed individual where he's just having all this sex. We would be having really deep conversations and blah, blah, blah. And it just like, it rubbed me the wrong way for a number of reasons. But I think number one is like, you shouldn't go into a relationship hoping to change someone. So like the Barnett that is presenting in the pods should be the Barnett that is in Mexico and should be the Barnett that is in the apartments. Like it should stay the same, but even better, it should also grow, but it shouldn't like transform into this individual that's not who he is.
Was Jessica the one who laughed at his dog in the bed joke?
Yeah.
Well,
I think so. Yeah, she's like, I have a dog, and then he's like, well, I am one, or something like that.
Yeah.
Or, what do you think about dogs in the bed?
Yeah.
Doesn't
sound very sophisticated to me.
Yeah, exactly. And so I just was
somebody
like,
who makes jokes like that, so I know I'm not sophisticated.
Oh my god. I was particularly taken aback by it because I was like, oh wow, she really has this idea of who she would transform Barnett into. And the thing that's so crazy to me is that like when she sees Barnett, her infatuation doubles. So like clearly it's physical for her too. And who's to say she would not be in the same position if her and Amber were there? And it just was like, are you delusional? So anyway,
I like what you're doing.
that was my perspective of that was my moment where that was where I snapped, and I still had another episode to watch. And I was like, oh no. Oh no. John, did you come up with your report? Or not your report, but your moment?
I had so many when we started, and like we've talked, and now I've just forgotten all of them. She's obviously like Mark deserves so much better. Like,
yeah,
I thought when she starts listing off the this close second thing, like that.
Yeah, walk us through that scenario.
Yeah, so like he says they're talking about some chick, and like he's like, oh yeah, but she's a close second, and she gets really offended about it, and she's like, oh, close second, and she's reading way too much into it. In my opinion, she was reading way too much into it. I could tell he was trying to say something cute, but it came out the wrong way. And so like, yeah, she, as a way of retaliating, hurt people, realize. She says, oh,
Barnett.
Tune in next week where we see if John can get the name right once.
Spoiler alert, I don't get it right ever.
He knows the future.
So yeah, Barnett is so hot and he's so sexy, and I was like, yo, and he got upset. I was like, that's so not cool. Like, that's such a retaliation thing. Like, she seems so immature in that, like.
And then she called Mark a.
You cut out. Say it again.
She just okay. Yeah. Showed her house. I was like, "Where's the live, laugh, love sign?" Like, she also, like, in the pods, she's just so like she just falls for so many. Oh, I thought she was a hypocrite in the pods. When this is one of the things, I thought she was such a hypocrite because she was like, I don't F with people like you to Bernadette, and then she like goes to Mark, and like right before that she was talking to Mark, and she was like not having it anymore.
I'm just
like,
not feeling it.
Yeah, I'm just not feeling it. I'm like, that's so.
It was the same exact thing.
You don't F with people like yourself. That's what it is. Like, she's so hypocritical. True. Are you proud of me, Lindsay? I said F instead of the actual word.
We do have one that we need to cut out from earlier.
Here's my report. I'll keep it super simple. I don't think it's a report. We're talking about most problematic. I think she had way too much alcohol. Now, I don't know if that's because of the show and the way that they, like, everybody seemed to have alcohol in every single scene that they were in. Maybe that's just something. But she was the only one who seemed to get, like, intoxicated multiple times. Like, I don't know. I think it kind of just shows like her true colors a little bit of like, okay, she's willing to turn to this as a cover or as a remedy for things that are going on. So
Yeah.
I don't know. That feels problematic to me.
She always had a glass of wine in her hand. Like it was like every other scene.
So
she had
many
a glass
people
of wine in
did
her hand.
as well, but also I think she definitely did have it the
But
most.
like her glass of wine kept like going like this in different scenes. I was like,
In
oh,
cycles.
okay. It's not a continuity issue. It's yeah. Anyway.
Oh, problematic.
Alrighty. Well, I'll close us up.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Just Janky, where we talked about Love is Blind. We talked about men and feelings. How do we be vulnerable? How do we inspire vulnerability? Dumb humans going to the beach during the quarantine, etc., etc. If you enjoyed this, please give us a like. Comment down below what your thoughts are. What's this week's question?
What's something you're proud of that you've accomplished in your life?
There we go. Tell us about what
I
you're
think we
proud
should
of and what
answer
you've
that
accomplished.
question next week, boys.
All right, cool. We'll see what people write in about that, and then we will respond to that question as well. Subscribe to us for more content. We'll be here every Monday. So if you want to laugh or you want to think about some deep stuff on a Monday, tune in. Thank you. Our email is justjanky3, the number 3 at gmail.com. Feel free to write in there, post something on YouTube, and we'll respond to it there. And let us know how we're doing if you enjoy it. Thank you so much. We'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye, everybody. See you all later. Woo!